And good morning. Today, I thought we'd take a look at Psalm 45. Now, frankly, this psalm is a little bit depressing for me when you read it and look at it in its historical context. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let me share my screen with you, and you'll see that I brought up the New Living Translation of Psalm 45 here I've plugged it into a Word document. Starts out for the choir director, a love song to be sung to the tune of lilies. And it's a psalm of the descendants of Korah. Korah were singers that David put in the temple. So let's take a look at the psalm. A beautiful words stir my heart. I'll recite a lovely poem about the king, for my tongue is like the pen of a skillful poet. So right off the bat, the descendants of Korah identify the purpose and the um, uh, focus of the psalm. This psalm is about the king. You are the most handsome of all gracious words stream from your lips. God himself has blessed you forever. Put on your sword, O mighty warrior. You're so glorious, so majestic in your majesty. Ride out to victory, defending truth, humility, and justice. Go forth to perform awe-inspiring deeds. Your arrows are sharp, piercing your enemies' hearts. The nations fall beneath your feet. Your throne, O God, endures forever and ever. You rule with the scepter of justice. You love justice and hate evil. Therefore, God, your God, has anointed you, pouring out the oil of joy on you more than on anyone else. Myrrh, aloes, and cassia perfume your robes. In ivory palaces, the music of strings entertains you. King's daughters are among your noble women. At your right side stands the queen, wearing jewelry of finest gold from Ophir. Listen to me, O royal daughter. Now he shifts and he begins to talk to the king's daughter who stands at his right hand, the queen. Listen to me, O royal daughter. Take to heart what I say. Forget your people and your family far away. For your royal husband delights in your beauty. Honor him, for he is your Lord. The princess of Tyre will shower you with gifts. The wealthy will beg your favor. The bride, a princess, looks glorious in her golden gown. Now we see something of the occasion of the psalm. This is a psalm composed for the king's wedding day. In her beautiful robe, she is led to the king, accompanied by her bridesmaid. What a joyful and enthusiastic procession as they enter the king's palace. Your sons will become kings like their father. You'll make them rulers over many lands. I will bring honor to your name in every generation. Therefore, the nations will praise you forever and ever. Now, let's just look at some of the clues that the psalm gives us of who this is about. It mentions gold from Ophir. If we take a look here, um, we could do this, and why don't we do that? We will look in Bible Gateway for the word Ophir. What we find is 11 times. First time it's mentioned is in Genesis 10:29. The second time, 1 Kings 9:28. They sold to Ophir and brought back Solomon 16 tons of gold. 1 Kings 10, Hiram's ships brought gold from Ophir. This also is during Solomon's reign. 1 Kings 22, Jehoshaphat built a fleet of trading ships to sail to Ophir, but they never sailed. 1 Chronicles, Hiram says to Solomon, I'm dedicating more than 112 tons of gold from Ophir. And 2 Chronicles 8, Hiram sent him ships. The him here again is Solomon. The ships sailed to Ophir with Solomon's men and brought back to Solomon 17 tons of gold. 2 Chronicles 9, the crews of Hiram and Solomon brought gold from Ophir. And the last, we have, of course, here the passage we're studying, Psalm 45:9, and then Isaiah 13:12 and Job 28:16, simply say that Ophir is known for its gold, and Ophir's gold is like no other. Ophir is equated, it's mentioned several times in relation to Solomon. This leads me to believe that here the descendants of Korah, who David established in his temple, is singing about Solomon's marriage to one of the many wives that he had. We see about that wife, forget your people and your family far away. She is not Israelite. This indeed does coincide with what we know about Solomon, who married many wives. First Kings tells us that Solomon had 700 wives. Those wives were all from other nations. Solomon's wives, this is 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. King Solomon loved many foreign women. Besides Pharaoh's daughter, he married women from Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, from among the Hittites. The Lord had clearly instructed the people of Israel, you must not marry them, because they will turn your hearts to their gods. But Solomon insisted on loving them anyway. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. Now, this is one, it is perhaps the Pharaoh's daughter, who is mentioned several times. She appears to be Solomon's favorite. Her husband is royalty, King Solomon. Others, the princess of Tyre, will shower you with gifts. She looks glorious in her golden gown. Now, as we read through, I did want to mention two things. Here, your throne, O God, endures forever and ever. At first blush, it appears that what's happening here is that the descendants of Korah shift to talk about God, but actually, this is the New Living Translation, and 6 has a footnote. That footnote, your divine throne endures forever and ever. According to the footnote, the sons of Korah don't switch to talk about God. It's kind of a different way of saying the throne which God has given you. Now, one of my favorite sites, Bible Gateway, does give us the ability to look at many different translations. Again, here in New Living Translation, your divine throne. So let's look at all English translations. There we go. What we see is that commonly it's thy throne, O God, your throne, O God. But the contemporary English version does say, your divine throne is eternal and everlasting. The contemporary English version, you are God and you'll rule forever as king. We see similar sorts of statements. God, your throne will last, or your throne is a throne of God. The Good News translation says, the kingdom that God has given you will last forever and ever. We come down the Message, your throne is God's throne, ever and always. There's one that I'm looking for here, and I think it is near the end. We get a lot of your throne, oh God. Yeah, the Revised Standard Version, your divine throne endures forever. And finally, yeah, I guess that's all of it. Now, that led me to look in Bible, in Logos. We'll look up Psalm 45:6. If I spell it right, there we go. So your throne, God, we right click on that. And we look up in the abridged dictionary, the word God, Elohim. The first use, rulers, judges, either as divine representatives at sacred places or as reflecting divine majesty and power. What we see here is that actually the sons of Korah are not shifting to talk about God. This is a legitimate way to talk about Solomon, about the king. Same thing happens in Psalm 82, verse 6. Let's just go there. Psalm 82, verse 6 says, I said, you are gods, you are all sons of the Most High. Who's he talking to there? He's talking to the rulers, to the leaders, to humans. Look carefully at what he says. You are gods, you are all sons of the Most High. However, you will die like humans and fall like any other ruler. This is the king, this is the ruler. Going back to Psalm 45, we do see then that entire verse, your throne, O God, endures forever and ever. You rule with the scepter of justice. You love justice and hate evil. Therefore, God, your God, has anointed you, pouring out the oil of joy on you more than on anyone else. If we go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 1, verses 8 and 9, guess what? To the Son, he says, your throne, O God, endures forever and ever. You rule with the scepter of justice. He quotes verbatim Psalm 45, 6 and 7, and he refers it to the Son of God, to the Messiah. Now, because of this, many commentators simply take this psalm as a messianic psalm. They simply take this psalm and apply it to Jesus. Certainly in the book of Hebrews that happens, it can be done, but I think the original intent of the psalm is not to talk about the Messiah, but to talk about King Solomon. Now, I started out by saying this psalm, for me, is just a bit of a sad psalm, because if we look at 1 Kings 11, 1-4, King Solomon loved many foreign women. Besides the Pharaoh's daughter, I think this psalm refers, written to him by the sons of Korah on the occasion of his marriage, his formal marriage to Pharaoh's daughter. He married women from other nations as well. The Lord had said, you must not marry them because they'll turn your hearts to their gods. Yet Solomon insisted on loving them anyway. He had 700 wives of royal birth. This was the way Solomon sealed treaties with other nations. He married into the royal families of the other nations. And in fact, they did turn his heart away from the Lord. In Solomon's old age, they turned his heart to worship other gods instead of being completely faithful to the Lord, his God, as his father, David, had been. So what this psalm is about, written on the occasion of Solomon's marriage, sings the praises of Solomon, sings the praises of his wife. Everything at that stage looked wonderful, but it didn't turn out that way. The wives that he had, including Pharaoh's daughter, led him astray, and he began worshiping other gods. Psalm 45 is, for me, a sad psalm because of where it ends. Hope you enjoyed our little study here. We're going to end it there. We could say much more about it, but that's enough for us. God bless you. Keep studying the Psalms. We'll come back later with another psalm.